when I was trying to tell these guys that you got to be in the system to realize the sentence you get. When certain stuff just don't weigh up, it's a mandatory 1-year sentence when you just get fined.
The internet didn't wake up calm this time. It woke up loud, confused, and arguing with itself. One blurry clip, one reckless caption, and suddenly a name everybody thought they understood was back in the middle of chaos. Fetty Wap, fresh out, barely home, and already wrapped in a narrative that feels dangerous, messy, and way bigger than music. It started quietly, a few posts floating around, people asking questions instead of making statements. Then the tone shifted, captions got bolder, words like ops, retaliation, and new footage started appearing next to his name. Fans refreshed their timelines over and over, trying to figure out what they were really looking at. Was this actually new? Was it even him? Or was the internet doing what it does best, filling in gaps with fear and imagination? Emotions ran high almost instantly. Some people rushed to defend him, saying he just got out and deserves peace. Others weren't so patient. They pointed to his early release and started connecting dots that might not even exist. One comment would say, "This don't feel right." Another would reply, "Y'all reaching." And before anyone could slow it down, the question everyone was avoiding crept to the front of the conversation. Not spoken directly, but heavy in the air. The kind of question that can get people hurt just for being asked. Fans are shocked not because of what's confirmed, but because of how fast the story is growing without confirmation. Clips are being replayed frame by frame, voices analyzed, shadows paused and zoomed. Everyone suddenly becomes an expert, a detective, a judge. And Fetty Wap? Silent. No statement, no post, no response, which only makes the noise louder. Friends and supporters are split. Some say ignore it, the internet will move on. Others say this kind of talk is dangerous and needs to be shut down before it spirals. And somewhere in the middle is a man who just walked out of federal custody, trying to rebuild a life while the world debates a narrative he didn't create. So what exactly are people claiming this footage shows? Why are fans using words they don't fully understand? And how did a celebration turn into suspicion overnight? Because once the internet starts asking a dangerous question, it rarely stops until something breaks. The moment Fetty Wap stepped back into public view, the tone online shifted in a way nobody expected. At first it was love, people reposting old songs, clips from 2015, comments filled with nostalgia and jokes about 1738 being back. It felt like a reset, like the story had paused and now resumed with a second chance. But that feeling didn't last long, because the internet doesn't sit still. It looks for the next angle, the next crack, the next thing to question. And it didn't take long before celebration quietly turned into suspicion. It began with short clips being shared without context, nothing dramatic on the surface, shaky phone footage, crowded backgrounds, voices overlapping. But captions started doing the heavy lifting. Words like new footage and look closely pulled people in. Viewers leaned forward, replayed it again, then again. Comments filled with guesswork. Some said they recognized the location. Others claimed they heard certain voices. Nobody agreed on the facts, but everybody had an opinion. Fans were shocked at how fast the mood changed. One minute people were welcoming him home, the next minute they were debating what the footage meant and what it could imply. Emotions ran high, especially among supporters who felt protective. Many pointed out that he had just come home and hadn't even had time to breathe. They reminded everyone that rumors can be dangerous, especially when they're tied to street language and assumptions. Others weren't convinced. They questioned why certain people were in the clip at all. They questioned timing. They questioned silence. And in online culture, silence is rarely taken as peace. It's taken as fuel. Behind the scenes, people close to Fetty Wap were reportedly frustrated. Some believed the internet was manufacturing drama out of boredom. Others worried that the narrative was getting away from them. A friend was quoted online saying the clip meant nothing and that people were reaching, but that only made critics louder. Because once doubt enters the room, reassurance feels suspicious to those already convinced something is off. The dangerous part wasn't the footage itself, it was the conversation around it. The way people started framing questions that didn't need answers to cause harm. The way comments escalated from curiosity to accusation without evidence. Fans watching from the outside could feel the tension building. It wasn't about music anymore. It wasn't even about his case. It was about perception. And perception online has a way of turning into truth, whether it deserves to or not. Family reactions added another layer to the chaos. Posts began circulating from people
connected to his personal life. Some supportive, others clearly resentful. Old grievances resurfaced. Comments about absence, responsibility, and loyalty mixed into the larger narrative. It created a messy picture. Supporters argued that personal issues had nothing to do with viral rumors. Critics said everything is connected. The family was left divided, at least in the eyes of the internet. And every post became another piece of the story people were writing for him. Fans are shocked by how quickly the story stopped being his. Strangers debated his motives, his past, his future. Some claimed the footage proved something darker was happening. Others laughed at those claims and called them reckless. But even the jokes carried an edge. Because joking about serious accusations doesn't make them disappear. It spreads them wider. In private conversations, people questioned whether this was just the price of coming back into the spotlight. After years away, everything feels louder. Every move feels watched. Every clip feels like evidence to someone. Fetty Wap hadn't said a word, but the internet spoke for him non-stop. Silence became a canvas where anyone could paint whatever story they wanted. What made it worse was how fast the clips traveled. One post turned into hundreds of reposts. Different captions, different claims, different tones. By the time some viewers saw it, the story had already changed 3 times. Some thought it was a warning, some thought it was a threat, some thought it was fake entirely, but nobody could agree. And in that confusion, fear found room to grow. Supporters kept reminding people that online speculation has real-world consequences. They pointed out that words like ops carry weight beyond entertainment. They aren't just slang, they imply danger, they imply intent. And throwing those words around casually can put someone in a position they never asked for. Still, the comments kept coming. People argued deep into the night, screenshots stacking, theories evolving. At the same time, another conversation was happening quietly, one about whether Fetty Wap even wanted to return to this level of visibility. Some fans speculated that he might have hoped for a low-key re-entry, rebuild privately, focus on family, health, and stability. But the internet doesn't allow slow returns. It demands drama. And when it doesn't get official statements, it creates its own. By the end of the day, the clip itself almost didn't matter anymore. What mattered was the question it sparked, the one people kept circling without ever asking directly, the kind of question that doesn't need proof to cause damage. And as the noise grew louder, it became clear that this wasn't just another viral moment. It was the start of something heavier, a story driven less by facts and more by fear, curiosity, and the internet's hunger for controversy. The conversation didn't slow down the next day, it multiplied. What started as a few comments turned into full threads dissecting every second of the clip. People slowed it down, zoomed in, added arrows, circled shadows, and claimed they saw things nobody else could confirm. One person said the way someone stepped back felt tense. Another said the laughter in the background sounded forced. Every tiny detail became a clue in a story that was being written in real time by strangers who had never met him. Fans are shocked at how quickly imagination replaced logic. There was no official report, no police statement, no verified source backing the captions being shared. Yet the comments read like verdicts. People spoke with certainty about things they could not possibly know. That confidence spread faster than facts ever do. And with every repost, the tone got darker, the language sharper, the assumptions heavier. Emotions ran high among longtime supporters who remembered how fast narratives can destroy someone's peace. They reminded others of past moments where rumors ruined lives before truth ever caught up. They begged people to stop sharing unverified claims. But online, urgency often beats caution. The more people warned against it, the more others leaned in, curious about what they were being told not to believe. Behind the scenes, people close to Fetty Wap were reportedly having tense conversations, not about the clip itself, but about the reaction to it. Some felt the situation was being blown out of proportion. Others worried that even false narratives can create real tension if repeated enough. One associate allegedly said the footage was being misread completely, that nothing in it suggested danger at all. But once again, reassurance struggled to compete with sensational captions. The internet loves patterns. It connects unrelated dots and convinces itself they were always meant to touch. Early release turned into suspicion. Suspicion turned into coded language. Coded language turned into outright accusations. And all of it happened without a single confirmed incident.
Taking place, people weren't reacting to reality. They were reacting to the version of the story that felt most dramatic. Family reactions, or perceived reactions, added fuel. Screenshots of old posts resurfaced. Past arguments were dragged back into the present. Comments about loyalty, absence, and trust were pulled into the conversation, even though they had nothing to do with the viral clip. The family was left divided in the public eye, even if those divisions had existed quietly long before this moment. The internet doesn't care about timelines. It stacks everything together and calls it context. Some fans tried to shift the conversation back to music. They posted old performances, lyrics, memories of summer nights when his songs were everywhere. They wanted to drown out the noise with nostalgia, but even that became part of the debate. Critics questioned whether nostalgia was enough to protect him now. Others said none of this should even matter anymore. He did his time, he came home, end of story. But the internet rarely accepts simple endings. What made the situation more unsettling was the silence. Not because silence means guilt, but because silence invites projection. Every hour without a statement gave people more room to speculate. Some said he was being advised to stay quiet. Others said silence proved he was hiding something. Both sides spoke with the same confidence, even though neither had evidence. The absence of his voice became the loudest part of the story. Supporters kept pointing out a crucial detail that many ignored. Nothing had actually happened. There was no confirmed confrontation, no verified threat, no real incident tied to the footage. Yet the emotional reaction online felt as intense as if something terrible had already occurred. This is how narratives become dangerous. They don't wait for events. They create pressure until something feels inevitable. Private messages leaked into public spaces. People claimed they heard things through friends of friends. Anonymous accounts posted vague warnings without details. These posts spread quickly because they felt exclusive, like secret knowledge. Fans are shocked by how easily anonymous words can shape a conversation. Nobody questioned motives. Nobody asked for proof. They just shared. At the same time, voices emerged calling the entire situation irresponsible. They argued that repeating street-coded language without understanding its weight could put someone at risk. They reminded others that words online don't stay online. They travel. They reach people who may take them seriously. And once that happens, intentions no longer matter. The damage is already done. Through it all, Fetty Wap remained absent from the noise. No posts, no comments, no responses. Just old photos being reshared and a future being debated without his participation. Some fans admired the restraint. Others found it unsettling. But everyone felt the tension. The sense that something had shifted even though nothing concrete had occurred. By the end of the night, timelines were exhausted but not satisfied. The clip had been seen millions of times. Opinions were locked in, sides were chosen, and the dangerous question lingered, unspoken yet obvious. Not because it was true, but because enough people were asking it for it to feel real. And once a narrative reaches that point, walking it back becomes almost impossible. As the hours passed, the conversation took on a different texture. It stopped being about the clip itself and started becoming about meaning. People weren't asking what happened anymore. They were asking what it could mean if certain assumptions were true. That shift is subtle but dangerous, because once discussion moves from observation to implication, facts stop mattering as much as feelings. And feelings online are contagious. Some fans began drawing lines between old stories and new rumors. They brought up past conflicts, old interviews, lyrics that suddenly felt loaded with new interpretations. Bars that once sounded like flexing were now being quoted as foreshadowing. Comments read like prophecy instead of analysis. People said things like, "This been coming," or "You could see this playing out." None of it based on evidence. All of it based on narrative instinct. Emotions ran high among people who felt like the internet was rewriting history. They argued that mistakes from the past were already paid for. Time was served. Consequences were faced. Bringing those things back into a new, unverified story felt cruel to them. But critics didn't see it that way. They claimed the past never really leaves. They said actions echo. And once someone has a certain reputation, the internet will always frame them through that lens. Friends of friends started appearing in comment sections, hinting that they knew more than they could say. Vague posts popped up saying things like, "Y'all don't know half of it," or "There's a reason people are talking." These statements
Never came with details, but they didn't need to. Ambiguity was enough. Fans are shocked at how easily mystery fuels belief. When someone suggests hidden knowledge, people lean in instead of stepping back. The fear wasn't just for him. Supporters worried about the ripple effect, how these conversations affect families, how kids might one day read comments written by strangers, how a rumor can turn into a label that never fully washes off. The family was left divided in public opinion, even though no one outside of it truly knew what was happening behind closed doors. Online judgment filled in the silence with assumptions. Some people tried to inject logic into the chaos. They broke down timelines, pointed out inconsistencies, asked why no reputable outlet had confirmed anything, asked why no official report existed. Their comments were often ignored or mocked. Logic doesn't travel as fast as fear. Calm explanations don't go viral the way ominous hints do. As the debate stretched on, the language became heavier. Words that imply danger were used casually, almost carelessly. People didn't stop to consider who might be reading, who might take those words seriously, who might decide to act based on something they saw online. Supporters tried to remind everyone that internet talk doesn't exist in a vacuum, but that reminder struggled to compete with the thrill of speculation. What made it more unsettling was how quickly sides hardened. People who questioned the narrative were accused of being naive. People who pushed it were accused of being reckless. The middle ground disappeared. There was no room for uncertainty. You either believed something was wrong or you were labeled blind. That kind of polarization keeps stories alive long after they should have faded. In private group chats, fans debated whether this was intentional. Some wondered if the clip was being misused deliberately for clout. Others thought it was just another case of the internet spiraling without direction. Both possibilities felt plausible. Neither required proof to feel convincing. And that's the problem. Plausibility has become more powerful than truth. Some voices brought up the pressure of re-entry. How coming home after years away isn't just about freedom. It's about navigating a world that changed without you. Social media louder, attention harsher, forgiveness thinner. Every move watched, every expression analyzed. In that environment, even normal moments can be framed as suspicious if someone wants them to be. Fans are shocked by how fast celebration turned into tension. Welcome home posts were buried under speculation threats. Joy was replaced by vigilance. People weren't asking how he was doing. They were asking what he might be hiding. That shift says more about the internet than it does about him. People close to the situation were said to be urging calm, advising everyone to stop amplifying noise, reminding each other that attention is oxygen for rumors. But it's hard to starve a fire once it's spread, especially when thousands of people are feeding it without realizing they are. Another twist entered the conversation when old footage began resurfacing. Clips from years ago reposted as if they were recent, captions stripped of dates, context erased. Viewers unfamiliar with the timeline assumed everything was new. Fans tried to correct it, but corrections don't travel as far as shocking claims. Misinformation doesn't need to be intentional to be effective. At the same time, a different group of fans began questioning why people were so eager for something bad to be true. They asked whether this was about concern or entertainment, whether people were projecting their own need for drama onto someone else's life. Those questions were uncomfortable. They forced reflection, and reflection doesn't thrive in fast-moving comment sections. As night fell again, the energy shifted from explosive to tense. The frenzy slowed, but the suspicion remained. People bookmarked threads, saved screenshots, waited for updates that might never come. Silence hung heavy, not as an answer, but as a mirror. Everyone saw what they wanted to see in it. The most troubling part was how normalized it all felt, how familiar this cycle has become. Someone returns to the spotlight, the internet builds them up, then it searches for cracks. Once it finds one, real or imagined, it digs until something breaks. Fans are shocked not because this is new, but because it keeps happening and nobody seems able to stop it. By the time timelines quieted for the night, one thing was clear. The story was no longer about footage, it was about belief, about how easily narratives form when people feel entitled to explanations they aren't owed. And once belief takes hold, it doesn't need confirmation to survive. By the third wave of discussion, something else crept in quietly: fear. Not the loud kind that trends instantly, but the low hum underneath the comments. People started
talking less about the clip and more about consequences. What happens when a rumor sticks too long? What happens when a question keeps being asked by the wrong ears? Fans are shocked not just by the speculation, but by how casually people ignore what that speculation can trigger in the real world. Some supporters began saying the conversation felt irresponsible. They pointed out that using charged language while hiding behind just asking questions doesn't remove accountability. They reminded everyone that narratives like this have history, that people have been hurt before because the internet decided something felt true enough to repeat. Emotions ran high in those discussions, especially among those who had seen similar situations spiral out of control in the past. Others pushed back hard. They argued that nobody was threatening anything, that it was all just talk. They accused concerned fans of overreacting, but that dismissal only deepened the divide, because talk is never just talk when it spreads unchecked. The family was left divided in perception again, with some people insisting the concern was valid and others insisting it was exaggerated drama. The story kept mutating. New captions appeared reframing the same clip in different ways. One version hinted at tension, another hinted at warning signs, another leaned into humor as if joking made the implications harmless. Fans are shocked at how the same footage can be transformed depending on the words attached to it. The image stays the same, the meaning shifts wildly. Meanwhile, silence from Fetty Wap became a symbol instead of a choice. Some interpreted it as strategy, others as avoidance. Some said staying quiet was smart, others said it was suspicious. The truth is, silence online is rarely neutral. It becomes whatever the loudest voices decide it should be, and those voices rarely agree. People began speculating about pressure behind the scenes, whether he was being advised to lay low, whether legal restrictions limited what he could say, whether speaking up would only fuel the fire. These theories piled up without confirmation, creating an invisible storyline that felt just as real to many as anything visible. Fans debated not just what was happening, but what they imagined might be happening in rooms they would never see. Another emotional layer entered the conversation when fans started talking about safety, not as a claim but as a fear. They worried about how words travel, how screenshots leave platforms and land in places nobody can control, how repetition can turn rumor into perceived reality.
Emotions ran high because these concerns weren't about drama, they were about consequences that can't be undone once they start. At the same time, critics accused supporters of trying to censor discussion. They framed concern as weakness. They said people should be able to talk freely, but freedom without responsibility has a pattern online. It often favors the loudest, not the wisest, and once again, nuance got lost in the noise. Some fans tried to pull the focus back to humanity. They reminded others that he is more than a headline, more than a caption, more than a theory, that returning home after years away is already heavy without strangers adding fear to the mix. Those comments were heartfelt, but they struggled to compete with speculation dressed up as insight. The internet also began dragging in unrelated figures, names mentioned casually, connections implied without proof. This expansion made the story feel bigger and more dangerous, even though it rested on nothing concrete. Fans are shocked at how quickly one person's moment can pull in others who never asked to be part of the narrative. Collateral attention became collateral damage. Somewhere in the middle of all this, the original joy of his return felt distant. Welcome home posts were buried, celebration replaced by vigilance. People weren't watching to support anymore, they were watching to catch something. That shift is subtle, but it changes everything. It turns audiences into investigators, and lives into puzzles meant to be solved for entertainment. Private accounts continue to post cryptic messages, nothing direct, nothing provable, just enough to keep curiosity alive. Those posts were shared with captions like "read between the lines" or "y'all really think this is nothing?" Fans are shocked at how much power suggestion holds. A hint without substance can outweigh facts if it feeds the right emotion. In response, some users began calling for a pause. They asked others to stop sharing, to stop speculating, to let things settle. But pauses don't trend, restraint doesn't get likes, and so the cycle continued, slower now, but deeper. The most unsettling realization for many was how familiar the pattern felt. Build up, tear down, repeat. It wasn't unique to this situation. It was just another example of how quickly the internet turns uncertainty into narrative, and once narrative
forms, correcting it becomes nearly impossible, even if nothing ever happened. As days passed, the story didn't explode further, but it didn't disappear either. It hovered, lingering in comments, in side conversations, in the way people talked around his name. Fans are shocked by how something unconfirmed can cast such a long shadow, how absence of evidence doesn't mean absence of impact. And through all of it, one thing became clearer. The dangerous part was never the footage. It was the question people kept circling, the one they didn't need answered to keep repeating, the one that lives longer the more it's whispered. Because once a question like that exists publicly, it changes how everything after it is seen. By the time the conversation reached its final stage, exhaustion set in, but clarity still didn't arrive. The noise softened, yet the tension stayed. People weren't posting as much, but they were watching closely, waiting, refreshing feeds not because something new had happened, but because they expected something to happen. That expectation alone was heavy. It showed how far the narrative had traveled without ever needing confirmation. Fans are shocked at how quickly uncertainty becomes its own reality. Nothing new had emerged, no follow-up clip, no official response, no verified report. Yet the atmosphere around his name felt different than it did on the day he came home. The energy had shifted from celebration to caution. People spoke carefully now, as if even casual mentions carried weight. Some supporters started reframing the situation as a lesson. They talked about how fragile re-entry can be, how one moment of misinterpretation can undo months or years of quiet rebuilding. They argued that this is why many artists choose to disappear after release, not because they're hiding, but because visibility invites projection. Emotions ran high in those reflections, especially among people who felt the internet had crossed a line. Others doubled down. They insisted that discussion itself wasn't the problem. They claimed the real issue was secrecy, that if everything was fine, someone would say so. This logic ignored the reality that not every rumor deserves oxygen, not every accusation requires response. But online culture often treats silence as a challenge instead of a boundary. The family was left divided in perception once again. Some viewers sympathized deeply, imagining the stress of watching a loved one become a trending topic for all the wrong reasons. Others were harsher, saying public figures should expect scrutiny. Both sides spoke past each other, rooted in completely different ideas of responsibility and empathy. What stood out most was how the original footage faded into the background. People stopped referencing what was actually visible and focused instead on what they felt. The clip became a symbol rather than evidence. It represented fear to some, validation to others, and entertainment to those watching from a distance. Fans are shocked by how easily meaning replaces reality once emotions take over. Slowly, some voices began to question the audience itself. They asked why people were so invested in something negative happening, why the idea of danger felt more engaging than the idea of peace.
Those questions were uncomfortable, and because of that, they didn't spread far. Discomfort rarely goes viral. There were also moments of reflection, posts acknowledging that maybe the internet had gone too far, that repeating certain language without proof could have consequences no one wanted. These comments were quieter, less shared, but they existed. They showed that not everyone was comfortable with how far things had gone. Still, the damage wasn't loud. It was subtle. A shift in tone, a change in how his name was mentioned, a pause before hitting post. That's how narratives linger, not in explosions, but in after effects. Fans are shocked when they realize the story doesn't need an ending to leave a mark. Some supporters expressed hope that time would dissolve the noise, that without new fuel, the conversation would move on to the next distraction. History suggests that's likely. The internet rarely holds on to one story forever. But even if attention fades, memory doesn't always reset. Traces remain, screenshots saved, assumptions filed away. Others worried about what comes next, not because they expect something bad, but because they understand how pressure works, how constant speculation wears on people, how being watched through a lens of suspicion can shape behavior. These concerns weren't accusations, they were fears rooted in observation. The most telling part of the entire situation was how little substance it required. No event, no confirmation, no clear threat. Just a clip, captions, and imagination. That alone was enough to generate days of debate, tension, and unease. Fans are shocked not by the rumors themselves, but by how easily they took hold. In the end, the story became
less about Fetty Wap and more about the environment surrounding him, a culture that rewards speed over accuracy, emotion over evidence, reaction over reflection. Once that culture latches onto a question, especially a dangerous one, it rarely lets go gently. As timelines slowly moved on, the question didn't disappear, it just stopped being shouted. It lived on quietly, shaping how future posts would be read, how silence would be interpreted, how normal moments might be viewed with suspicion. That's the real impact of unverified narratives. They don't need to be true to be powerful. And so the situation settled into something unresolved. Not a scandal with facts, not a crisis with confirmation, but a cloud of suggestion hanging over a moment that should have been simple, a return home, a second chance. Fans are shocked by how quickly that moment was complicated, not by reality, but by the stories people chose to tell about it. So now it's on you. After hearing how fast one clip turned into a storm of speculation, how celebration shifted into suspicion, and how a single question changed the tone around everything, what do you think this really says about the situation? Do you believe the internet is just doing what it always does? Or do you think moments like these show how dangerous unchecked narratives can become? Ask yourself this. If you are in his position, fresh home and trying to rebuild quietly, how would you handle a story you didn't create but can't escape? Would you speak up and risk adding fuel to the fire? Or would you stay silent and let people project whatever they want? There's no easy answer, and that's why this conversation keeps going. Fans are divided, emotions are still high, and the question hasn't fully gone away. Some believe time will wash this all out. Others think the damage is already done, even without anything actually happening. And that's exactly why your opinion matters here. If you've been watching closely, drop your thoughts in the comments. Do you think this was all blown out of proportion, or do you feel like the internet crossed a line this time? Let us know how you see it, because these conversations don't shape themselves, people shape them. And if you want to keep up with stories like this, where rumors, reactions, and reality collide, make sure you like this video so it reaches more people who want to talk about it honestly. Subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next breakdown, and turn on notifications so you're always part of the conversation when a story starts to unfold. This isn't just about one clip or one artist. It's about how quickly narratives form and how powerful they become once they're out there. Stay curious, stay critical, and most importantly, stay aware of how much weight words can carry.